Tanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Let's start with Radha Krishna Bol. This song, as well as a collection of other songs, are written by Bhaktivinoda Thakur for patrolling around town. That is, the devotees would take these bhajans and sing them street corners and go through town so people could hear the simple truths of the Srimad Bhagavatam in song right in their own town. We'll look at the translation first.
Radha Krishna बोल.
Chant, chant, Radha Krishna. Everyone chant. Aishika Diya, Shabna Diya, Piriche Neche Goranitai. When Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda came dancing through Nadia, they gave these teachings. Chant, chant, Radha Krishna, everyone chant. In Kali Yuga, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu learned from his spiritual master, Harinama, Harinama, Harinama eva kevalam, Kalavana Stevana Stevana Steva Gatiranyata. In this Kali Yuga age, which is like the cosmic winter, when spiritual life is very difficult, because people are very slow to take it up and there's many distractions. Just the name, chanting of the name is all powerful in this age. And he said, you're caught up in a whirlpool of senseless action and are sinking lower and lower. Chant Radha Krishna, everyone chant. So this is the nature of the material world. Unless we're actually holding on to the Guru Parampara and to the practice of devotional service, we're caught in a whirlpool. It's inevitable that the modes of nature will drag us down. We never stay in equilibrium because the modes don't stay in equilibrium and we're affected by them. Shribir Gunamayar Bhavir Ebi Sarfam Icham Jagat Mohitam Nabijananti Mabhibhya Paramavyam. That Krishna says everyone's bewildered by these modes, but I'm beyond them. If you just remember the spirit soul as the eternal servant of Krishna, you'll never have any more sorrows. Chant, chant, Radha Krishna, everyone chant. Chant Hare Krishna and your eyes will fill with tears and your body will feel transcendental shivering. Chant, chant, Radha Krishna, everyone chant. Simply chant the Radha Krishna and join with us. Those are the only alms we beg. Chant, chant, Radha Krishna, everyone chant. All dangers will be gone when that name is chanted, says Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Radha Krishna bol bol, bolo re shobai. Shishi, Radha Krishna bol bol, bolo re shobai. Shikadiya, Shobnadiya, Kirchene Chegornitai. Shikadiya, Shobnadiya, Kirchene Chegornitai. Shikadiya, Shobnadiya, Kirchene Gornitai. Shikadiya, Shabnadiya, Kirchene Gornitai. Haribo bolo re shikadiya. Radha Krishna bol bol bolo re shobha.
Radha Krishna bol bol bolo re shobha.
Niche mayar boshe jacho beshe kacho ha budu bubai.
Niche mayar boshe jacho beshe kacho ha budu bubai.
Hari bol bolo re niche mayar boshe.
Hari bol bolo re niche mayar boshe.
Radha Krishna bol bol bolo re shobha.
Radha Krishna bol bol bolo re shobha.
Shri Shri Radha Krishna bol bol bolo re shobha.
Radha Krishna bol bol bolo re shobha.
Jiv Krishna Das e Vishwas Kole to ardu ko nai. Hari bol bolo re Jiv Krishna Das. Radha Krishna bol bol bolo re shobha. I don't hear any cartol. Radha Krishna bol bol bolo re shobha. Niche ma Krishna bol de jabe pulaka habe chor bhi anki boli thai. Krishna bolbe jabe pulaka habe chor bhi anki boli thai. Gotta put your hands up now. Pulaka habe chor bhi anki boli. Hari bol bolo Krishna bolbe jabe. Radha Krishna bol bol bolo re shobha. Shri Shri Radha Krishna bol bol bolo re shobha. Radha Krishna bolo shange cholo me matra bikachar. Hari bol bolo Radha Krishna bolo. Radha Krishna bol bol bolo re shobha. Shri Shri Radha Krishna bol bol bolo re shobha. Jai Sakal Vipod Bhakti Vinod Bolin Jakonam Dam Jai. Faster in the cartels. Jai Sakal Vipod Bhakti Vinod Bolin Jakonam Dam Jai. Jai Bhakti Vinod Jai Sakal Vipul Bhakti Vinod Golin Jatanandon Gai Radha Krishna Bolo Shange Cholo E Matra Taha Chada Shiv Krishna Dase Vishwas Kole Do Artikonai Krishna Bulbe Jabe Pula Kahabe Jorbe Anki Boli Thai Miche Mayer Boshe Chacho Vishe Kacho Hapu Bubai Shikariya Shabnadiya Priche Niche Golitai Haribo 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 Nitai Gaur Haribo Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. I go to pray, Manande Hari Hari Bo. Mangalacharna 1. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Dina Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadakmayam Dati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Scha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vidham Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Sadvatutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitam Scha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitana Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo. Please give me Bhagavad-gita, text number 1325. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jnanenatmani pashyanti kechidatmanamatmana anye sankhena yogena karma yogena chapare. Jnanena, by meditation, atmani, within the self, pashyanti, see, kechit, some, atmanam, the supersoul, atmana, by the mind, anye, others, sankhena, of philosophical discussion, yogena, by the yoga system, karma yogena, by activities without fruitive desire, cha, also, apare, others. Translation, some perceive the supersoul within themselves through meditation, others through the cultivation of knowledge, and still others through working without fruitive desires. Purport. The Lord informs Arjuna that the conditioned souls can be divided into two classes as far as man's search for self-realization is concerned. Those who are atheists, agnostics, and skeptics are beyond the sense of spiritual understanding. But there are others who are faithful in their understanding of spiritual life, and they are called introspective devotees, philosophers, and workers who have renounced fruitive results. Those who always try to establish the doctrine of monism are also counted among the atheists and agnostics. In other words, only the devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are best situated in spiritual understanding, because they understand that beyond this material nature are the spiritual world and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is expanded as the Paramatma, the Supersoul in everyone, the all-pervading Godhead. Of course, there are those who try to understand the Supreme Absolute by cultivation of knowledge, and they can be counted in the class of the faithful. The Sankhya philosophers analyze this material world into 24 elements, and they place the individual soul as the 25th item. When they are able to understand the nature of the individual soul to be transcendental to the material elements, they are able to understand also that above the individual soul there is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is the 26th element. Thus, gradually, they also come to the standard of devotional service in Krishna consciousness. Those who work without fruitive results are also perfect in their attitude. They are given a chance to advance to the platform of devotional service in Krishna consciousness. Here it is stated that there are some people who are pure in consciousness and who try to find out the Supersoul by meditation. And when they discover the Supersoul within themselves, they become transcendentally situated. Similarly, there are others who also try to understand the Supreme Soul by cultivation of knowledge. And there are others who cultivate the Hatha Yoga system and who try to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead by childish activities. Next text. Anye tvevam ajanata shrutvanebhya upasate tepi chatitrantyeva mrityum shruti parayana. Anye, others too, but evam, thus, ajanantaha, without spiritual knowledge, shrutva, by hearing, anebhya, from others, upasate, begin to worship, te, they, api, also, cha, and, atitaranti, transcend, eva, certainly, mrityum, the path of death, shruti parayana, inclined to the process of hearing. Translation, again, there are those who, although not conversant in spiritual knowledge, begin to worship the Supreme Person upon hearing about him from others. Because of their tendency to hear from authorities, they also transcend the path of birth and death. Purport. This verse is particularly applicable to modern society, because in modern society there is practically no education in spiritual matters. Some of the people may appear to be atheistic or agnostic or philosophical, but actually there is no knowledge of philosophy. As for the common man, if he is a good soul, then there is a chance for advancement by hearing. This hearing process is very important. Lord Chaitanya, who preached Krishna consciousness in the modern world, gave great stress to hearing, because if the common man simply hears from authoritative sources, he can progress, especially, according to Lord Chaitanya, if he hears the transcendental vibration, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. It is stated, therefore, that all men should take advantage of hearing from realized souls and gradually become able to understand everything. The worship of the Supreme Lord will then undoubtedly take place. Lord Chaitanya has said that in this age no one needs to change his position, but one should give up the endeavor to understand the absolute truth by speculative reasoning. One should learn to become the servant of those who are in knowledge of the Supreme Lord. If one is fortunate enough to take shelter of a pure devotee, hear from him about self-realization, and follow in his footsteps, one will be gradually elevated to the position of a pure devotee. In this verse particularly, the process of hearing is strongly recommended, and this is very appropriate, although the common man is often not as capable as so-called philosophers. Faithful hearing from an authoritative person will help one transcend this material existence and go back home, back to Godhead. Go back to Godhead, back to home. Yeah, the previous verse. Here, Krishna's, in this chapter, he's talking about understanding the field and the knower of the field. He describes this as knowledge. Kshetragnam chapivam vidi. Put it on gallery, please. Sarva Kshetru Shubharata. Kshetra Kshetraknoyo Jnanam Yatash Jnanam Matam Mama. He says what is knowledge means to understand the difference between the field and the knower of the field. And some, as we heard, go through the Sankhya process by analyzing all of the elements and dividing them up into categories and seeing which ones have which qualities. When you come to count all the aspects of material nature, 24 different elements in combination, then you find, or actually in the aggregate, not in the combination, but in aggregate, the 24 elements, and then you see that the soul, or the Atma, is 25th element, but it's categorically different from all the other elements. And then, as Prabhupada just pointed out, when one comes to the position of understanding one's Atma, or self beyond matter, then there's also the possibility of perceiving the Supersoul, who's the origin of all the various energies. So, Kshetra Kshetrajnayor Jnanam Yatashkana Matam Mama, Krishna said this is real knowledge, to understand this difference. Otherwise, a verse Krishna spoke, he speaks it at Kurukshetra, when he's gone there for the eclipse. And many great sages have come there. The residents of Vrindavan came, because they knew Krishna was coming. That was their purpose. And when Krishna gathered before all the greatest sages, there's a long list in the Bhagavatam of who showed up there. He said, Yasyatma buddhi kunapetridatuke swadi kalatradishu bahoma ejidi yatirtha buddhi salilena karijij janeshu abhigeshu saeva gokara. Who knows what that verse means? Yes, go ahead. What's up, Prabhu?
Krishna is describing the body as a bag that contains 3 items. If I'm not wrong, it's stool, pus, and urine.
Yeah. Anyway, whatever way you want to divide it up. But kapapita vayu, according to Ayurvedic science, they're all material elements. Go ahead.
I think Krishna was just talking about how, I can't remember the rest of the verse, Maharaj.
Okay, let's go over it. Yasyatma bhudi kunape tridhatuke. So tridhatuke means there's three elements. So a person who thinks that I am this combination of elements. Swadi kalatradishu. So then he says, Yasyatma buddhi kunipe tridhatute. Swadi kalatradishu bhoma ijidi. And then the person who also identifies himself with the place where he's born, bhoma. This is my place. Everyone identifies with their own place, no matter how downtrodden, poor, miserable the place is. As they wax nationalistic that this is my place that I come from because I was born here. Therefore, it's worshipable, and all of my family members also are my people. And yatirtha buddhi salilena karichich. A person who goes to a tirtha, a holy place, but not to get association with sadhus, but only to take a bath in the holy river and deposit their sins and then go on sinning. Such a person has the mentality of a cow or an ass. They're not humans. Krishna spoke this verse in front of all the greatest sages, in front of Vyasadeva and scores of other highly elevated sages who are expert in all kinds of poetry and literary device and philosophy. And then this is the verse he spoke. And do you know what the sages said collectively when they heard this? Pavani Bhakti, you know what they said?
No,
Collectively. They said, this is the most profound thing we've ever heard. They said, this is the most profound thing we've ever heard. So the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he comes before all these sages, anything he could have said, but he said, Yasyatma buddhi kunipe tridhatuke. So that he describes that this is the mentality of a person crippled by material concept of life. It's thinking that I'm this body, when the body is actually just a bag of chemicals. And thinking that this is my homeland, and because it's my homeland, it's worshipable. Or thinking that a holy place just means a place to take a bath and go home. Dump your sins, go home. So he said, this person's like a cow or an ass. And all the great sages said, this is profound. This is amazing what Krishna just said. It shows that those who are actually experiencing that I'm not the material body, and realizing the potential of that I'm not actually bound to this body. I'm not obligated to my past karma. And I can actually direct myself by cultivation to go anywhere I wish. This is one of the messages Krishna gives in the Bhagavad-gita. Yanti deva vrata devan, pitrin yanti pratir vrata, bhutani yanti bhuteja, yanti mam, yajinopimam. That wherever you decide to go, yanti, you can go. It's just a matter of knowing where you are on the map and then knowing what the process is to go elsewhere. And those who are dedicated to the bodily conception of life, they've made a vrat that no, I'm going to be my body and I'm going to stay in the bodily conception of life. Then Prahlad Maharaj says, Nate vidu swartagatim hi Vishnu, durashre ye artamanina, anda yatander upaniyamanas te pishatantram uru damnibadha. And when they don't know that the ultimate goal of life is Vishnu, then they follow other blind people. And as Prabhupada says in the second purport we read, actually people have no knowledge of philosophy. But then they lead anyway. They have no idea what the goal of life is. They have no idea whatsoever. But then they lead. And therefore Prahlad said, it's like a blind person leading other blind people into a ditch. And that because of following such instructions, they become bound by very strong cords. They can't get out of the bodily conception of life. On the other hand, there are processes through which one can disentangle oneself from this bodily conception of life. Some of them are mentioned in the first verse, including Sankhya and meditation. And in the second verse, which sounds doable, sounds more doable, I think, and that is that for those who are open to hearing, they're good souls, meaning they're open to hearing from an authority. They can feel that, okay, this person has something valuable to say, and they don't have a cheating heart that let me be cheated so I can go on in my illusory existence. And they feel like, okay, let me listen. Even though I don't know anything, I'll listen. And this is who Krishna's talking about, a simple person. Not that they're simple-minded, but they're simple-hearted. And if such a person aligns him or herself with a sadhu, one who's practicing sadhana as given through the authorized disciplic succession, and whose motivation is only to serve Krishna and is following in the footsteps of pure devotees, then by hearing from such a person, then even if in the beginning it's hard to understand, if that person simply persists in listening, sitting for the class, listening carefully, again and again, as it's being explained, as there are narratives about the Supreme Personality of Godhead being discussed, entwined with the philosophy taught by Krishna and the great sages, then miraculously the heart becomes transformed. Satam prasangam mama virya sambido bhavanti hritkarna rasayana kata taj joshanat ashu apavarga vartmani shadaratir bhaktir anukramishudi. Kapila says that in the association of devotees, the primary function is hearing. And as you sit and listen in the association of devotees to Krishna Katha, then the heart is transformed. And as the heart is transformed, one knows for oneself that one's gaining spiritual strength and also getting a taste for the process. And this is the path that takes one back home, back to the spiritual world. Shamalangi, what is your experience with sitting and listening?
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, am I audible?
You are, fortunately, for all of us.
Okay, thank you. Yes, effect of listening, Maharaj, I think it's profound. I mean, initially, I remember when I started coming to the classes regularly, even without understanding, if I can continue to listen, then slowly takes time, and then you also invest some time personally, to go through that, whatever you heard. And it just, Krishna reveals himself. That's all I can say.
Shamalangi, I was sitting there in Bascom.
Mm-hmm.
That's where we were, right? Bascom?
Yes.
I remember giving classes in Bascom. And I remember noticing that Shamalangi's coming to all the classes and she's listening very carefully. That's actually, you can notice it as a speaker. If you're giving class again and again, you look at the audience and you can notice who's actually leaning into it and who's lighting up. It's actually it's palpable. It's noticeable. I saw it in you. You would come and you would always sit, and then I noticed a change, actually, that like it was almost sudden. There was a light that went on. You became effulgent. I mean, you've always been effulgent, but it just became, augmented in an amazing way. Are you aware of that? Were you aware of a
Yeah.
transformative process of sitting and hearing class?
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's an amazing process that anyone who will put themselves before the sound vibration and simply hear. I was appreciated in Vrindavan, thinking I have these scenes of Kartik in my mind, going oftentimes in the evening to the Radha Damodar temple, and there was this sadhu every night, even amidst the clamor. You know how clamorous it is. You go into Radha Damodar at night during Kartik, and everyone's circumambulating, and there's bells ringing, and everyone just in a festive mood. It's Kartik. And there was this one sadhu. He wore this far-out hat. I can't remember exactly what it looked like. I just remember it was an unusual hat he had on. And he had a little dais he sat on. And then I'd look and I'd see people in the middle of the courtyard just crowded in listening. He'd do a little bhajan, and then he'd speak some Krishna Katha, and then he'd do a little more bhajan. And it's just the culture that everyone would sit there and listen and hear the class. And transformative. And even just by walking by that environment and seeing everybody leaning in and listening to this sadhu speak and how attentive everyone was, I could feel myself being affected by it, just by the scene. And we noticed on the cover of the inside cover of the Bhagavatam, you see the sages sitting in, listening. What is Shukadev telling Parikshit? And this is the main process for advancing in spiritual life. Satam prasangam, mama virya samvido. In the association of satam, those who are perfectly, sincerely aligned with the process of Krishna consciousness and who are speaking Krishna Katha, bona fide Krishna Katha. In spiritual circles, there's no speculation. It's all backed up by the Shastra. Then gradually, that message goes in the ear. It actually enters the heart as a kind of medicine. And then we become redirected from pavarga, which means the hellish process of birth and death in the material world and transmigration, to apavarga. We're transformed and we're taken back home, back to Godhead. So we're helped by helping ourselves to stay in front of transcendental sound vibration, to expand the Sankirtan movement. What's especially effective is to have an assembly of people in whatever way you can. Right now, a lot of it's electronic, and simply hear Krishna Katha and the pastimes that are there in the Bhagavatam. Is that Dhanavari?
Yes, Hare Krishna,
Hare
Maharaj,
Krishna.
please accept my humble obeisances.
Hare.
Jai Srila Prabhupada. When you just mentioned about Bascom, I just remember something. I used to come to Bascom just maybe 2-3 times a year. I didn't know about class or anything. I just, Hanspriya Mataji, during Sraddh or something, I used to drop something and come there to just have a darshan quickly, and Hanspriya Mataji used to engage me a little bit, and then I just remember Bascom, so I wanted to share, and Krishna is so kind, and I didn't know about anything in detail at that time.
So what happened?
Thank you, Hare Krishna.
No, what happened?
Hanspriya Mataji, really.
So you didn't know, you just had a good heart because you come from an extremely pious background. So you were there at the temple, Hansapriya engaged you, and then what?
Then I didn't even know that Guru Maharaj, that after you came to San Diego and the roots, the seeds were there, just planted. I didn't, without knowing, I didn't know anything and how I feel. And then you accepted me and everything, and I'm so thankful.
Okay, well,
Thank
you see, you're the poster child for today's verse. Let's look at it again. Bring the verse back. No, not that one. Okay, look at the translation. Again, there are those who, although not conversant in spiritual knowledge, begin to worship the Supreme Person upon hearing about him from others. Because of their tendency to hear from authorities, they transcend the path of birth and death. You're such a case. You have a clean heart. And you have that punya. And so when you just walk in a spiritual environment, just by coming near the sound vibration, then you're transformed. And then you place your feet squarely on the path of bhajana kriya, that I'm going in a particular direction. I'm with these people. I want to go to that place. I want to go to Goloka. And this is what happens in the power of the Sangha. Satam prasangam. He's saying that this is in the association of satam, those who are truthful, truly dedicated to the process of worshiping Krishna. And they do so by hearing Jnane Priyasam Udapasyanamanta Eva Jivanti San Mukharitam Bhavadiyavartam. Brahma says, give up everything else. Don't worry about all the other thoughts you have about philosophizing, speculating. Don't try to do jnana. Don't try to do karma. Do bhakti and do it like this. Stane stita shruti gatam tanavan manobir. Really worship the sound vibration. And he said, by that process, you'll be elevated to the highest position. It's like Gopal Champu Prabhu in Atlanta, Georgia. There's like a lot of new people coming into your center there. And basically, you're giving just a straight presentation to them about Krishna consciousness and what kind of transformations have you seen? Can you give us any general or detailed consideration of how that works, how you've seen it working?
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, please at my humble basis. Worship of Prabhupada.
Yeah, we're missing Kartik, right?
Yeah, I was as you were
missing
speaking,
Govardhan, not Kartik. Yeah.
I was just thinking about, we sit in a room for 5 hours a day and just hear Srimad Bhagavatam, and just like I was so much missing that, and how, at the end of it all, I was just thinking, do we really do this 5 hours every single day hearing Srimad Bhagavatam? But there's nowhere else in the world I would rather be than there hearing from you and Keshava Bharati Maharaj. Anyway, now we're separated from that, but we've noticed that just reading Srila Prabhupada's books and giving people an opportunity to hear, the response has been tremendous. Many people are very grateful, and they say, nobody tells us anything like this. Where is this knowledge available? So just speaking about the body is separate from the soul, and material sense gratification won't bring us any happiness. A lot of people resonate with that, and they're very happy to hear that. And we've been getting a great response, especially with the prasadam.
Yeah, I mean, all that and prasadam too. Have you noticed transformations taking place in people, like in individuals there that you've seen?
Yeah, there's one gentleman in particular. His name is Ryan, and maybe just after a couple of classes, he came and he admitted to us that he stopped eating meat, and that he started following the Four Gila principles just by hearing, just by associating with devotees and coming and hearing. And he comes once a week for Bhagavatam class, and he comes for the Sunday program. And we just met him a couple months ago.
This is what's called a miracle, really. And Prabhupada used to point to this, that when people would ask him, Swamiji, do you do miracles? Show us something. Prabhupada would point to all of his students and say, this is a miracle. They gave up everything and they just want to hear, and they're practicing Krishna consciousness. But how did that happen? Prabhupada went to the park, he chanted, and then he held open class on Bhagavad-gita, and people came and listened. Now, Prabhupada comments about his own experience. He said he used to sit and listen to his Guru Maharaj, but he said he didn't understand everything. But still, he leaned into it. He still listened very carefully. And then gradually, and I mean, what verse would one of you submit that would explain that phenomena? A verse from the Bhagavad-gita perhaps would be really nice, that would explain the phenomena that somebody who really doesn't know what's going on, who doesn't really know the philosophy, I'm talking about Ryan or somebody like that coming in, or anyone for that matter at any level listening, just having a goodness in their heart that this seems like a good idea, although I have no idea what's happening. And they stay and they listen, and then they get knowledge and they get detachment. I'll take a verse from the Bhagavatam or from the Gita to explain it. The wheels are turning. Let's have some pramanam. Give me something from the first canto, second chapter.
Maharaj, can I see that?
Oh, yes. Go ahead, Shraddha.
It's 127. Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojitaha Janyat Asu Vairagyam Jnanam Cha Yat Hetukam. It means that, is that the one?
This is an excellent choice.
Yes, it says that those who worship the Supreme Lord, for them, Jnanam Cha Yat Hetukam. So both, they worship the Lord, for them, Janyatu Ashu Vairagyam. Very soon, Vairagya and knowledge come to them.
Yeah.
And later on, I don't remember the verse, but later on in, I think it's in around 5th or 6th chapter, Narad Muni, when he's explaining to Vyasadeva, he also says that knowledge and detachment are concomitant factors of devotional service. I'm forgetting which word that is. Somewhere in the 5th chapter.
Srivata, was that the verse you were thinking of, but you didn't jump in fast enough? I saw the wheels turning there and the mute button come off.
Oh, I'm just on Jamulus Maharaj, but I was thinking about a verse from the 11th canto about how everything that's achieved through detachment and jnana and every other process is achieved easily through devotional service. But I didn't think I didn't think it completely had to do with the conversation, so I didn't say it.
I think it's very related. You know, if you do bhakti, especially starting with Shravanam Kirtanam, then as Shraddha gave us this excellent verse from 127. You all know that verse, 127, right? That just by doing bhakti, then naturally as that gyan and vairagya come. I mean, it's amazing because this is gyan means one understands I'm not my body. And there's actually a super knower within the body that becomes revealed by listening through Shravanam Kirtanam. And also there's a detachment that it's very difficult to understand. There's a kind of a strength that comes into one's heart that, yes, I want to do this, and you have the determination to overcome the habits that drag one away from devotional service. So that comes from the direct process of bhakti, beginning with Shravanam Kirtanam. Do you want to read your verse, Srivatsa?
Sure, Maharaj. It is. It's 11, 20, 32 to 33.
Are you sitting in your bhajan kutir?
Oh,
I think it's nice you have a set of Bhagavatams right there. I mean, that you're living the life. You have a little corner there with a set of Bhagavatams, and you can hear and chant to your heart's content. That's pretty nice. All right, go ahead. Give him his verse. Give us the Sanskrit and the English, please, Srivata.
Yes, Maharaj. Yat karmabhir yat tapasa jnana vairagyatascha yat yogena dana dharmena shreyobhir itirerapi sarvam madbhakti yogena madbhakto labhate jnasa swargapavargam madhama katanchid yadi vanchati.
Translation, please.
Everything that can be achieved by fruitive activities, penance, knowledge, detachment, mystic yoga, charity, religious duties, and all other means of perfecting life is easily achieved by my devotee through loving service unto me. If somehow or other my devotee desires promotion to heaven, liberation, or residence in my abode, he easily achieves such benedictions.
Do you wish to read part of the purport and give a commentary?
If you'd like so, Maharaj.
Please.
Lord Krishna here reveals the transcendental glories of devotional service to the Lord Krishna here reveals the transcendental glories of devotional service to the Lord. Although pure devotees are desireless, desiring only the Lord's service, sometimes a great devotee may desire the Lord's benediction to facilitate his loving service. In the 6th canto of the Bhagavatam, we find that Sri Chitraketu, a great devotee of the Lord, desired promotion to heaven, so that accompanied by the most attractive ladies of the Vidyadhara planet, he could beautifully chant the glories of the Lord. Similarly, Sri Shukadev Goswami, the great narrator of Srimad Bhagavatam, desiring to avoid entanglement in the illusory potency of the Lord, would not come out of his mother's womb. In other words, Shukadev Goswami desired apavargam, or liberation from Maya, so that his devotional service would not be disturbed. Lord Krishna personally sent the illusory energy far away, so that Shukadev Goswami would come out of his mother's womb. Because of intense loving desire to serve the lotus feet of the Lord, a devotee may also desire promotion to the spiritual world. Should I
keep going?
According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, a devotee, having given up the independent cultivation of knowledge and detachment, may have firm faith in devotional service of the Lord, and yet remain slightly attached to the fruits of such activities. By expert fruitive activities, one gains residence in material heaven, and by cultivation of detachment, one is relieved of all bodily distress. If Lord Krishna detects within a devotee's heart the desire for such benedictions, the Lord can easily award them to his devotees. The word itirai in this verse indicates visiting holy places, accepting religious vows, and so forth. Several auspicious processes of elevation are mentioned in the verses preceding this. But all auspicious results of these processes are easily achieved by loving service to the Lord. Thus all devotees of the Lord, in whatever stage of advancement, should dedicate their energy exclusively to the Lord's service, as affirmed in the 2nd canto of Srimad Bhagavatam by Sri Shukadev Goswami. Akama sarva kamo va moksha kama udaradhi tivrena bhakti yogena yajeta purusham param. A person who has broader intelligence, whether he be full of all material desire, without any material desire, or desiring liberation, must by all means worship the Supreme Whole, the Personality of Godhead.
Little commentary, please.
I think it's very interesting to see that ultimately at the end of the day, a devotee's desires are always centered around service to the Lord or service to his devotees, and it's always nice to see that the Lord accommodates even for the small material desire that is left in the devotee, because sometimes it might seem that it's a point I heard in a lecture once about how Rupa Goswami, he defines pure devotional service as completely free from material desire, or anyabhilashita shunyam, completely free from personal desire. But sometimes a devotee might have a small material desire that suddenly comes out of an emergency situation, such as this is why Rupa Goswami adds the small ending of ita, meaning that in some cases that the devotee might ask for something, and an example can be given of how like if a devotee is crossing the road and a truck comes running at him, like flying at him, and he just prays to Krishna for protection. And Krishna offers such things for his devotees. But at the end of the day, a devotee's desires are always centered around the sole purpose of serving the Lord and his pure devotees, because there isn't anything else that's better for someone other than those two things. because material desires will go away in the course of time.
Thank you very much. That was a choice first, wasn't it? And now let's see if there's some questions.
Maharaj,
Yes?
another verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, can I refer?
Yes, please.
It's 11:2-42. Bhakti Pareshanubhava Viraktir Anyatra Chaisha Trika Ekakala Prapadyamanasya Yatasantaha Syu Tushti Pushti Shud Apayo Anugasam. It's about renunciation and bhakti.
Devotion, direct experience of the Supreme Lord, and detachment from other things. These three occur simultaneously for one who has taken shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, in the same way that pleasure, nourishment, and relief from hunger come simultaneously and increasingly with each bite for a person engaged in eating. This is an often quoted verse by Srila Prabhupada. Thank you very much, Tadiya Seva Prabhu. Okay, let's see. You can ask some questions.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
I had a question connected to the first verse that you read and also connected to what we had discussed on Saturday morning. So you were mentioning about how we can actually see Krishna and, like how Krishna appears in the heart of devotees. So Prabhu, I was just thinking that you had mentioned, I think, to Malini's question about Krishna would appear in the heart of the devotee in the level of asakti. So I was wondering, is that a person has to be in asakti to be in that level? To be able to see Krishna, or does Krishna appear even before? Thank you.
In the case of Narada Muni, when Narada was a child, 5 years old, and he met sadhus, and the sadhus liked him. They even stayed extra time because they saw this is a very receptive boy. And he served those sadhus, and he heard from them. His heart was touched by hearing their bhajan. And he once asked them if he could take the remnants of their prasadam, and he did, by their permission. He felt himself completely transformed by hearing their bhajan, by being around them. This is how devotional service takes root. It's by the association of sadhus. So after they left, he was alone, was this boy, with his mother, and by the power of providence, one night, his mother went out to milk a cow, and she was bitten by a snake, and she died. So this little 5-year-old boy, because he had already been touched by the association of sadhus, he was not lost by this. Not even by being left as an orphan, he wasn't lost. Rather, he set out on his own to explore the Lord's creation. And he went through mining fields, metropolises, little hamlets, and he ended up in a forest one day where he was meditating, and there he had a profound experience where he actually had darshan with Krishna. And he was in a state of rapture where he was beyond the material senses and body completely. And then he lost it. He lost, that is, the vision. And then he sat up straighter. He leaned harder into his practice, thinking that he could make it come back. And then the Lord spoke to him in an unembodied voice, just heard the voice, and said that actually this was just a sample. This is just a experience to encourage you, but you're not there yet. You're not ready. You need to devote your life to this. So Narada then spent the rest of his days practicing devotional service, but he had that taste because he had seen it. And there's a way that at any stage, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains, Ado Shradata Tasara Sangata Bhajana Kriya Tato Nartan Nivriti Satato Nishta Ruchistata Tato. He tells all the different stages of faith and bhakti and the thickening of the faith, and then he says that, sometimes the symptoms appear out of order. It's not that it has to go all the way, but it doesn't persist in that way. It comes as a kind of an experience to encourage the devotee. So yes, that's possible.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Yes.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhu?
Yes.
So I had a question regarding the part about unmotivated service to the Supreme Lord. So what during our daily lives or the course of our lives, it's natural for us during like our interaction with material energy to feel that I want a certain thing or a certain expectation. But how do we completely place at the highest degree our faith in Krishna, that our service is completely unmotivated, so that we can achieve that satisfaction in our devotional service?
As we go through various phases of our life, we may express that surrender to Krishna in different ways. If we look at Prabhupada's life as the Acharya that he was, that he is, Acharya means one who teaches by example. And we note in his later days when many of us were with him that he was Paramahamsa. And then if you look back, of course, it's not proper really to look back into the earlier lives of Vaishnavas, but we can learn. And Prabhupada told many of the incidents in his own life. For instance, he said, when his father made an arranged marriage, and there was a beautiful one and a not so beautiful. His father said, maybe the one that's not so beautiful. And then there was some, discrepancy. Oh, maybe a different wife. His father said, no, just do this. And he surrendered to whatever his father said. Prabhupada said his father was a pure devotee in his own right. And when Prabhupada talks about his business days, he mentions how he had started a business, and then the business, he said, by Krishna's arrangement, it was all dismantled. Although the astrologer said you should, by all the signs, you should be as rich as Birla from this. And everything was set up to go perfectly, but Prabhupada said Krishna dismantled it. So how did Prabhupada surrender at that time? Practically, he accepted it as Krishna's mercy, and then he moved at a certain time when the time was right into Vanaprastha and looked for service in the Gaudiya Math. And one thing after another, you can see at different periods in Prabhupada's life where he shows a practical example, a real life example. That, yes, as you're living, you'll go through life's experiences, and in each one of them, then, you make a decision, how will I best serve Krishna when I make this arrangement? And if you're doing that during the different periods of your life, the different, when you make various decisions about how to do something, and you're taking guidance, this is the way to stay on track throughout a lifetime. The Varnashrama system is really there as a practical means to give us a facility in various parts of our life, like the different ashramas. They accommodate, in the younger years, brahmachari student life, very natural. Then a different, sometimes there's grahastha, vanaprastha, sannyas, things like that. These are all meant so one can gradually accommodate one's psychophysiological nature and position in life and connect it to Krishna. And so the way you express and also according to, who you are, man, woman, that you may be, your surrender may be expressed in different ways. And you can see all the examples in the Srimad Bhagavatam of exemplary characters who, although they were kings, they might have been women, whatever situation the soul is in, the sincere soul finds a way in which to connect it to Krishna, connect the service to Krishna. So what it looks like is something very practical, because you actually have to go through life. There's no jumping into Paramahamsa mode all of a sudden and saying, I'm Paramahamsa, I'll just go to the forest or live aloof from everything. That is not as effective, Rupa Goswami says, anasaktasya vishayan yatarham upayunjita nirbandha krishna sambandhe yuktam vairagyamuchate papanchikataya buddhya hari sambandhi vastuna mumukshabi prityago vairagyam palgukatyate. That's, you should use everything in Krishna's service. Whatever facility you have, whatever body you have, everything, your senses, use it in Krishna's service. And to give up things that can be used in Krishna's service and not use them is artificial. He said it's palku vairagya. It's not very good or strong or important renunciation. Can you respond?
Yes, Prabhu, thank you.
No, I did it. What, any of it hit the mark, or do you want to ask a follow-up question?
I think what you mentioned, what struck me the most and what was most practical was that constantly being aware of our position, and then how we can surrender, and using our capabilities to surrender to Krishna throughout our different stages of life can ultimately lead to natural, unmotivated service.
It could be very practical, almost mundane seeming kinds of questions. This is the kind of point I was trying to make.
Mm-hmm.
Is that it doesn't always look like, hey, I'm off to the forest. It looks like sometimes, look at Priyavrata in the 5th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. He was ready to just stay in a cave. Narada Muni was there with him, teaching him everything. And then Swayambhuva Manu, his father, came and said, we need something else from you. You've got to get into management, which means we'd like you to be a grahastha and a king and all that. He's like, wait a minute, I'm just sitting here doing my bhajan. I don't want... And then Brahma came and said, no, we really do need a king, and you have to do this. And there's a discussion there about what is really renunciation. When they came and they asked him to do that, then he did that. Of course, for others, like Yadu, his father asked him to take his old age. His father was cursed to become old. But then Shukracharya said you could give it away. You could trade away your old age back to one of your kids, and then you could be young again. So he asked his different children. He asked Yadu, and Yadu said, "I don't want to take your old age, because I need my youth to become Krishna conscious, and I know Krishna is going to appear later. So I'm going to develop my Krishna consciousness so I can greet him properly and worship him when he comes." But then his other sons, they just said, no, we want sense gratification now that we're young. We don't want your old age. So their motivation was not renounced, whereas Yadu's was. And of course, the 4 Kumaras, When they came out, Brahma asked them to take up Grihastha life, and they said, sorry, no can do. And Brahma became really, really disturbed. He was angry. But there was no fault. And there's no fault in Yadu disobeying his father either, because it was for Krishna consciousness. So renunciation has to do with motive also. How you're utilizing and also what your motive is behind it. Because the two sons, Yadu said, I don't want to do it. And the other son said, I don't want to do it. But Yadu was faultless where the other ones were faulted because they had their own material motivation, whereas Yadu didn't. So the renunciation and applying these types of things is nuanced, and of course it has to do with motive. And also, it may be very practical things that take place, because sometimes the renunciation can look more like you're taking up more of a burden in material life. But actually, if the motive is there, because it's something that is ordained by your spiritual mentors, and it's actually for your long-term benefit, then that can be a more powerful kind of renunciation than something that is more personally motivated. Even like where to live, that could be a discussion. You could say, so where should we live? And then in one place, it can live in a bigger house. It costs less money, or it can live in a smaller house, but hey, we're going to be close to our service, and we're going to be able to be at the temple every day or do our service. So which one do you do? If you choose if you make these decisions based on what's best for my service, that's your real motivation. You'll never make a mistake, and that's real renunciation. How to increase the service. That's what Priyavrata saw also when he finally said, okay, I'll do it. And it was actually Krishna's desire that he did it. So he took it up and became really entangled, actually, in all kinds of duties. And then later he just gave it up by the Lord's arrangement. But that's another example of the way Krishna carries what you lack and preserves what you have if you do service for him. Kandamakananda Maharaj, he was a grihastha for some time, and then he wanted to take sannyas. But then he told us in a class in Vrindavan once, he said, before he could take sannyas, he had to take extra time to build up his material life, because he had to leave his wife, not insolvent, but, fully rightly situated. So he said, rather than becoming a renunciate, he said for a couple of years he had to work extra hard to put everything in place so that he could change ashrams. So you got to know when to zig and when to zag, according to and it helps to have really good guidance when you're making these decisions.
Thank you very much.
You're making all the right moves, Priya Kishori.
Thank you.
Today is the appearance of Radha Kund. It's a day when we know that millions of people, hundreds of thousands of people go to Radha Kund, and they take a dip at midnight. It's a tumultuous scene. The Radha Kund lake is something that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself brought to light. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, he was searching for it, actually. And when he was there in Vrindavan looking for Radha Kund, and he found this tiny little pond, tiny little puddle, actually. And then he got in ecstasy, and he took a bath there in that puddle and declared, this is the Radha Kund. And he asked his devotees like Raghunath Das and Rupa Goswami to excavate that place and put the Radha Kund there. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains the origin of Radha Kund. At first, in the pastimes of Krishna, the last Vrindavan pastime, marks the last Vrindavan pastime, was this killing of Arishtasura, the bull demon, who one night when Krishna was preparing to do the rasa dance, just in the evening time, around 5 o'clock in the evening, it was dusk. And the mood was mellow until the Rishdasura came snorting into town. And he was dastardly, he was scary, extremely frightening, because he was a gigantic bull. These are all wizards, and they're all employed by Kamsa to come in and try to kill Krishna. It was a pressurized mood in Vrindavan, even from the time of Krishna's birth, obviously, because Kamsa was trying to kill Krishna out of fear that he would be killed. He knew in his last life, as Kalanemi, he had been slain by Vishnu, and he had that samskar. In this life, I'm going to be killed also. So he was trying to fend off that inevitability. So when Arishta came to that scene where Krishna was with his gopis, Radharani was there, all his friends. How big was that bull? He had a big hump. His tail protruded in so high into the sky. This is how big Arishta was, that clouds took shelter around his tail and his hump because they thought, oh, this must be a mountain. And Arishta came with an extremely angry mood, and he was roaring. The roaring sound was so frightful that the cows who were pregnant, they had miscarriages. So did the young women who had fetuses, they miscarried because of the frightful sound. And just at that time, Krishna, they called for Krishna, oh Krishna, please help us. And the hero that he is, he jumped in front of Arishta. Bhagavatam explains of how cool Krishna is when he fights with these demons. He stood up to him, and then he slapped his arms. And the sound of it slapping his hands on his arms enraged Arishtasura. But then to make him even madder, Krishna standing next to Subala with his serpent-like arm, put it over the shoulder of his buddy, and he was just leaning there casually looking at Arishta like, what are you going to do about it? And Arishta became so angry, his eyes were practically red, copper red. He put his head down so his sharp horns were pointed straight at Krishna. With one hoof, he started digging up the earth. You may have seen bulls do this. When they're getting ready to fight, they dig the earth. And it's very powerful. I saw on Grand Road in Jagannath Puri when I was staying there once, there were two bulls. They started fighting each other in the middle of the road. And Grand Road is wide. But it was so heavy watching them fight. All traffic stopped. No one wanted to go near it, because they were so absorbed in fighting. Bulls are scary. What to speak of Arishta? It was gigantic. So he was digging up the earth with one of his hooves. He charged at Krishna, head down, his very sharp horns pointed right at Krishna. And it's described that he moved with the speed of a lightning bolt. But Krishna grabbed him by the horns and threw him back 18 feet. The way a stronger elephant throws a weaker elephant back on its heels and moves him back during a fight. Arishta now was mindlessly angry. He perspired, he was out of breath, but he was enraged, and he charged again at Krishna, who kicked him down with his foot, and then he slammed him to the ground like someone would take a wet rag and smash it over and over again like this. And one time when we were at Govardhan and we were listening to the story in the Krishna book of Arishtasura, Omkar was there, Havi's son. And the next day when I was on a parikram around Govardhan Hill and we walked by this little shop and there was somebody in there with a rag and they were smashing it on the ground. And we saw that. We both looked at each other and spontaneously started laughing because we were thinking the same thing of Arishta. And Krishna pulled out his left horn and he beat him with it until he left his body. So then the gopis, they came up to Krishna and they said, well, how are you going to atone for this? You just killed a male cow. And Krishna said, what are you talking about? It was a demon. They said, hey, you killed a cow. You made a sin. So he said, what do you want me to do? And Srimati Radharani said, you have to travel throughout the whole universe and go to every holy place and bathe in every river to atone for this one. And Krishna said, why would I want to do that when I can call all the holy rivers right here? So Krishna, with his lotus foot, dug his heel into the ground, and just by the force of his heel, he created a kund. And then, by the power of his mind, he's such a sankalpa, anything he desires manifests. All the holy rivers from all over the universe all appeared and entered into that kund. And he said, after bathing there, okay, so what are you going to do? He said to Srimati Radhika. He said, you've never done any pious work like I have, bathing in all these holy rivers. Srimati Radhika said, I don't even know that there are holy rivers in that lake. And just then, all of the personified rivers came out and offered their respects, announcing who they were. The Godavari, the Kaveri, the Jamuna, the Ganga. Every river was there. So then Srimati Radhika said, well, I'll show you, Krishna. I'll make my own kund. And so she engaged all her sakhis in digging a kund. And already Arishta, where he had put his mighty hoof, had dug a big ditch. And there she engaged thousands of her sakhis in taking clumps of wet earth out from that place. And within an hour, she created a beautiful kund. And Krishna said, let me help. I will take the water from my kund and put it in your kund. And she said, no, 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 no. You already bathed in it. Your sins are in that water from killing the cow. Why would I want that? And just then, Krishna invoked the heavenly personality who emerged from that lake and began offering fervent prayers to Srimati Radhika, begging for her mercy. And she said, what can I do for you? He said, please, let all of these rivers enter into your kund. And she said, all right, I'll grant your wish. And with that utterance, all of the waters, all of the holy rivers from all the holy places all over the universe, from Krishna's kund, then broke over through the banks of Krishna's kund and entered into Srimati Radharani's kund named Radha Kund. And Krishna said, I want your kund to be the most famous in the whole world. And from then on, they would come there daily to have their pastimes and meet with each other. And it's this site of loving pastimes between Radha and Krishna, which is considered by those who are followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to be the most sacred place in the whole universe, Sri Sri Radha Kund, who appeared today. Sakrit eva sarasnator avishkaroti. If one time one can bathe in those holy waters of the Radha Kund, one can become infused with pure love for Krishna. So you find the last 3 verses of the Upadeshamrita describing, first of all, the hierarchy of all the places in the universe, at least starting Vaikuntash Janito Vara Marupuri Tatrapi Ratsotsavad Vrindaranyam Darpani Ramana Tatrapi Govardhanaha. Describing how above Vaikuntha there's Mathura, above Mathura is the forest of Vrindavan, above the forest of Vrindavan is Govardhan Hill, above Govardhan Hill is Shri Radha Kund. And then the last 2 verses go on to explain the different gradations of devotees, and the highest is Srimati Radharani, and the highest place for the devotees to worship is at Sri Radha Kund. However, when we first went there, at least first time I went there with a big truckload of devotees, we had no idea what it was. We just thought it was a beautiful place to swim, so we all jumped in. And afterwards, when Prabhupada heard about it, how we had jumped in unceremoniously, then he forbade us to go in the Radha Kund until we learned the proper etiquette. And also, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, when he came to Radha Kund to give lecture during Kartik, and many sadhus came there wondering what kind of esoteric thing he will speak about. And he gave very basic instructions, thus disappointing a lot of people. But he wanted to make a point that we keep the topics of Radha Kund high above our head and worship them. And we take the practical process of pure devotional service, starting with hearing and chanting and associating with devotees and so forth, until we become qualified for such topics. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur used to appreciate staying in Govardhan because he said, we'll stay near Radha Kund, not in Radha Kund. He showed by example how to keep Radha Kund high above one's head. There are prayers from one of his disciples, Srila Sridhar Maharaj, in which he describes how one should keep the topics about the pastimes of Radha Krishna far above one's head and worship them. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as I began, discovered that place. It means he was looking for it, as Prabhupada writes. And also, by worshiping Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu through the Sankirtan movement, through the Harinam Sankirtan, one gradually gets the adhikari for, thank you for that. We can see Gandharvika Radha gave us Radha Kund here. To actually be invited to come into that environment, especially those who are pleasing Krishna through spreading the Sankirtan movement and going on taking the holy name as their life and soul. Let's just see if there's any last questions or comments.
Prabhu, I just had a request, Prabhu. I was wondering that, yes, Prabhu was mentioning, Gopal Champa Prabhu, how you would always read Bhagavatam in Govardhan. I was just wondering, is it possible to do at least 5 days of reading Bhagavatam for 5 hours during Bhishma Panchaka? Only if possible, Prabhu, and only if it suits your schedule.
We'll put an investigative committee on it to see. I just find it very interesting what's possible at what time and what places. We've realized about going to Govardhan, it sounds funny that it was hard to get out of Vrindavan. Vrindavan is a place, although we would hear and chant in Vrindavan, it's a very, as I say in Japanese, nigiyaka, very busy place. Horns honking, a lot of socializing, everything going on there. And hard to break out of that orbit. We get to Govardhan and you kind of lock into a schedule and get into an orbit there. I'll look into it and see what's possible. It's been a
Thank you
very,
so much.
I have to say, it's been a very intense schedule since the pandemic started, interestingly enough. I know all of you are having that experience too, but I feel like I've been running a marathon since it started with the various things, because there's no, when you travel, it's kind of like, okay, you break a certain pattern and you go this way, that way. When you're in one place and you start adding things on, it stays in that groove, right? Are you all having that similar experience? I heard someone told me they were actually happy to go physically back to work because there was a beginning and an end to their work. Whereas if you're home, there is no beginning and an end. I'm not avoiding your question, but we'll think about it. I have been thinking about it and what's practical. I'll let you know. Thanks for asking.
Guru Maharaj, when we talk about surrender and different phases of renunciation, and we talk about Srila Prabhupada's life, we look at the certain parts of it and we realize that he surrendered to the instruction of his guru, he surrendered to the instruction of his father. He tried to raise money and he couldn't raise it. And, he kept his business going, but he realized that is not the way he's going to execute the instructions. But then at a certain point, when we notice that he starts printing those books, he literally starves trying to get the paper to print the Back to Godhead and then to print his books, his first canto. At sometimes we see Prabhupada unrelenting. At sometimes we see Prabhupada meek and humble and accepting. How do we get the strength to know the difference?
Well, I don't know when you mean that he was meek and humble and unrelenting as opposites.
Like when it came to making his life choices, and he was instructed to make other choices, he was willing to accept that. But when it came to doing things like his service, when he was really running short of money, he didn't give up. He kept going, and somehow he made it happen. I was trying to figure out, how do you make that difference, the choice, and say, I just had to keep going. Like even for America, he had no idea if it was going to materialize. He's been trying so many ways, in so many ways. And I don't know if this is just one more way he tried, but he sat there. He waited for that lady to come down outside her office. He wouldn't give up. Sometimes I feel like he just never gave up. And sometimes I feel like he just accepted it. I couldn't figure out what the motivation was, except for the fact that Krishna was guiding him all through his life.
Well, you never give up. So just keep doing that. And Prabhupada writes in the Bhagavad-gita that a disciple should be daring and active in devotional service. I mean, why not? Why not? It's a much smarter idea to put everything on the line for Krishna as much as one can at every stage of life, because otherwise, without that, life is a kind of just a grind for no reason. But the more that we, in every aspect of life, we can find a way to be daring and active in the service, it's exciting. And we admire those devotees who have grit and they take the kind of responsibility that they can and they don't give up and they keep going. And everyone appreciates watching a devotee sincerely working according to his or her capacity, whatever situation that devotee's in, and going on with the practice of devotional service. And sometimes, a mother with a child, and it's a very difficult situation, and she still goes on trying and chanting her rounds and doing what she can. And that's as appreciated by Krishna as, someone taking sannyas and going off traveling all over the world, because that's their surrender and that's their situation, and the sincerity is there in the heart of that devotee to take up that, challenge and go on with whatever situation he or she is in. And you see that in the Krishna book with the story of Shrutadev and what's his counterpart? Krishna went to visit both of them at the same time. One was a king and the other one was a simple householder.
Bahulashva
and Shrutadev. And Krishna went there with his retinue, and then he went into both of their homes at the same time. because he and no one could tell that he had done that. And one of them gave him a royal feast, and the other one gave him a mat to sit on the floor and a glass of water. But because they were both pure devotees, they were both. It's okay, Kita Priya, you can walk across. They were both, it's a family show. You don't have to worry. Yeah. So it's what's in the heart. It's what's in the heart. Let's sing the Damodarastakam on this very auspicious day of Bahulashvami, the appearance day of Radha Kund. Right now, of course, I don't know the timing when it was. But in any case, all through, 48 hours around the Bahulashvami time, there are tens of thousands of devotees going to bathe in Radha Kund. And we can meditate on them and pray to Radha Kund for mercy to help us expand the Sankirtan movement. Hare Krishna. Oh, look, there's a Bisleri bottle full of Radha Kund water, and Gopal Champu Prabhu is offering a little bit for us to put on our head virtually. Hare Krishna. That was a nice touch, Gopal Champu Prabhu. Okay, I need a 1-minute break, and I'll be back on Jamulus for the Damodarastakam.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay, can you back up? Namam Ishvaram Satchit Ananda Rupam Vasat Kundalam Gokule Vrajamanam. Yashoda Viyolukala Davamana Param Vishtamachanta Todutya Gopya. Yashoda Viyolukala Davamana Param Vishtamachanta Todutya Gopya. Muhushvashakampa Trirekhankakanta Stitagraivam Damodaram Bhaktipadam Muhushvashakampa Trirekhankakanta Stitagraivam Damodaram Bhaktipadam Vantika, should we go a little higher, you think? What is your opinion? If not, we can stay. Slide, please change. Lila Birananda Kunde Swagosham Nimajantam Akyapayantam Swalila Birananda Kunde Sagosham Nimajjantam Akyapayantam Shitageshu bhakterjitatvam Puna prematastam shatavritivande Shitageshu bhakterjitatvam Puna prematastam shatavritivande Vadam deva moksham na moksham bodhimba nachanyam vrineham varishadapiha Idam deva purnata gopala balam sada me manasya virastyam kimanya Idam deva purnata gopala balam sada me manasya virastyam kimanya Idam deva purnatha gopala balam sada me manasya virastam kimanya Idam deva purnatha gopala balam sada me manasya virastam kimanya Dam te mukambojam kyankamilai Vritam kundalaistigharataischa gopya Nistya Virastamalam Lakshalabha Jalabdi Magnam Kripa Vrishti Vrishchati Dinam Vatanu Grihane Shamamagyami Yakshi Drishya Kuveradvajalbhatta Mutyaiva Yadva Tvaya Mochita Bhakti Bhajal Kritau Cha Tata Prema Bhaktin Swakame Priyacha Namokshe Graho Misti Damodareha Namaste Studamne Spuratiti Damne Tadiyo Darayata Vishvasya Damne Namo Radhikaya Tadiya Priyaya Namo Nantalilaya Divaya Tujam Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Radha Damodara Radha Damodara Radhe. Jaya Radha Damodara Radha Damodara Radhe. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jai Gaura Premanande, Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki, Shri Harinam Mahamantra Ki, Shri Harinam Prabhu Ki, Shri Bahulashtami Maha Mahotsava Ki, Shri Kartik Vrat Ki, Shri Giriraj Govardhan Ki, Jamunamai Ki, Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki, Gaura Premanande, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Always remember Vrindavan. Keep mind and heart in Vrindavan, even as you walk through San Jose, Santa Clara, San Mateo. Where else are you? Fremont.
Pleasanton.
Chicago. Where?
Pleasanton.
Pleasanton. Walking in Pleasanton, but heart and mind in Vrindavan. Always
San
remember
Diego.
Vrindavan. San Diego, walking in San Diego, but remembering Vrindavan and the
San
sadhus
Jose.
in Vrindavan. Walking in San Jose, but always, always remembering Vrindavan. Where?
Dublin.
Dublin. Walking in Dublin, but thinking and meditating on Vrindavan at every step.
Fremont.
Fremont, walking, living in Fremont, shopping in Fremont, but always, always thinking of and meditating on Vrindavan. Cupertino. Walking in Cupertino, bicycling in Cupertino, but always, always remembering Vrindavan Dham.
Santa Cruz.
Santa Cruz, cruising in Santa Cruz, but always, always remembering Vrindavan.
Los Angeles.
Los Angeles, doing Harinam at Venice Beach, but remembering Govardhan Hill. Always, always remember Vrindavan. Bhajare, Bhajare Ama, Manati Manda. Bhajare, Bhajare Ama, Manati Manda. Give me the translation. Bhajare, Bhajare Ama, Manati Manda. My dear mind, how foolish you are. We need violin or we can't get any bhav. Oh, just worship. Oh, just worship the lotus feet of Radha and Krishna in the forest of Raj. Oh, without such worship, there's no means of spiritual advancement. Just worship the lotus feet of Radha and Krishna in the forest of Raj. Oh, giving up all speculative knowledge and materialistic activities. Just worship Gaur, Gadadhar, Advaita, and Lord Nityananda, the original spiritual master. Oh, knowing Lord Gora and Lord Krishna to be the same. Oh, knowing the spiritual master to be very dear to Krishna. Just remember the dear associates of Lord Chaitanya, named Srivas Thakur, Haridas Thakur, Murari Gupta, and Mukunda Datto. Oh, in deep love for Lord Gora, you should remember the two great personalities, Srivas Thakur and Haridas Thakur. Just remember Sri Rupa Goswami, Sanatan, Jiva, and the two Raghunaths. Oh, if you are engaged in worshipping Lord Krishna, just remember the two great souls, Sri Rupa Goswami and Sanatan Goswami. Just remember Raghava Pandit, Gopal Bhatta Goswami, Swarup Damodar Goswami, and the Ramananda Roy. Oh, if you really seek love of Krishna, just remember Swarup Damodar Goswami and Ramananda Roy. Little flute on the last one, Vrinda. Just remember Srila Kavi Karnapur and all his family members, especially his father, Shivananda Sain. Oh, always remember Sri Kavi Karnapur and his family. Just remember all the sadhus who follow the path of Sri Rupa Goswami and who are absorbed in the ecstasy of bhajan. Oh, if you actually want residence in the land of Raja, just remember the sadhus who are followers of Srila Rupa Goswami. Bhajare, Bhajare Ama Manati Manda. Bhajare. Bhajandi Nagati Nai Re Bhaja Brajabane Radha Krishna Charanaravinda Bhaja Karma Pari Hari Re Bhaja Brajabani Radha Krishna Bhaja Gaura Garadhara Dvaita Guru Nityananda Bhaja Vida Jane Re Guru Krishna Prishta Jane Re Smara Srinivas Haridas Murari Mukunda Smara Premi Smara Smagare Smara Srinivas Haridase Rupa Sanatana Jiva Raghunatha Dvandva Smara Janjari Korbere Arupa Sanatane Smara Smara Raghava Gopala Bhatta Swarup Ramananda Smara jari chaore.
Krishna prema jari chaore.
Swarup Ramanande smara.
Swarup Ramanande smara.
Smara Kushti Sahakarna Pura Saint Shivananda Smara. Ajastra Smara Smara Re. Kushti Sahakarna Pure. Smara Rupa Nuga Sadhu Jana Bhajana Nanda Smara. Raje Bas Jari Chaore. Upanuga Sadhu Smara. Oh Ajastra Smara Smara Re. In Dublin, Cupertino, San Jose, Chicago, Laguna Beach, Santa Cruz, Burlingame. Ajastra Smara Smara Re. Remember, just remember. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Krishna, Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama.
Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol. Nitai Gaura Premanande Hari 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 Bol. Vanchakalpatarishta Kripasindavevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Ajasa Smara Smara Re. Always remember, go pray Manande Hari 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 Bo.
Maharaj just left?
I think Maharaj, either he left or he got somehow kicked out of the Zoom room.
That was a
Yeah. I don't want to go.
Maharaj also left Jamulus, so I'm not sure.
Maybe his internet cut out. Who knows?
We want us to wait 10 minutes?
Sure.
Possibly internet connection.
Yeah, we want us to wait 10 minutes?
I thought Maharaj say always remember and Maharaj left, I think.
Usually he makes some announcements in the end before he leaves. Or at least lets us say Hare Krishna.
I don't want him to come back and see we're all missing. That's the worst. I'd rather wait 10 minutes.
Hare Krishna, I have a question. Is there any way we can ever like go to Vrindavan?
Okay, I
And
just
have a parikrama all together.
yeah, I just wanted to interrupt you that Guru Maharaj says he's going to join us shortly. Sorry, Danwari Mataji, please continue your question.
Oh, no, thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Sorry about that. I got a little over enthusiastic and pushed the wrong button. Sorry to be so unceremonious.
We just felt like all of a sudden there was a silence. We felt so sad. Oh, Vaisesika Prabhu's there, not there.
Yeah, so anyway, we started with Bhagavad-gita tonight, and it always is reorienting, isn't it? Just to hear from Bhagavad-gita and to know that the voice of complete and total sensibility is always there for us. Krishna can bring us back to sanity when there's a world gone mad. And the whole world is, at Prabhupada, I have a letter on my wall from Prabhupada where he talks about how the whole material world is like a lunatic asylum where everyone's pretending to be a particular kind of character. Somebody thinks I'm Napoleon. Somebody else thinks I'm, Marie Antoinette, and walking around playing some role. But then actually we're nothing, none of these things, none of these identities. And the only thing that makes us happy is to be reconnected to Krishna. And the process to reconnect is so simple and sublime. It has to do with the name of Krishna. All power is there in Krishna's name. Nam akari bahuda nija sarva shaktis tatrarpita niyamahita smaranena kala. All of Krishna's potencies, personal potencies, are there in his name. So if anyone takes the name as their main focus in life and goes on chanting the name of Krishna and organizing life around the principle of keeping the name in the forefront and also making it an environment where there's no offenses against the name, then such a person will, without doubt, attain the perfection of life by the power of the name and by the power of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Does anybody have any last reflections?
Hare Krishna Prabhu,
Hare Krishna.
Very nice, Damodarastakam. And Prabhu, actually, I was feeling like, I am in Vrindavan when you were doing these nice bhajans. So I don't know, maybe other devotees will also relate. Thank you for taking us to Vrindavan today.
Yeah, it's amazing how the sound vibration defines the realm. So when we talk about the different realms in the universe, Om Bhura Bhuva Swa, there's a way in which every realm has a characteristic sound vibration. And so we can recreate a particular realm by bringing the sound vibration in. This is the power of mantra. Iti murtyabidanena mantra murtima murtikam yajite yagya purusha sasamyag darshana puman. You get direct contact with Krishna Loka and with Krishna himself by saying the mantra of the name. And namanyanantasya yashon kitani yat shinvanti gayanti grananti sadava. Those who sincerely want to worship Krishna should go on hearing the names, chanting the names, and then the realm appears naturally. So, Narayanak paraksarve nakutaschana bhivyati swarga pavarga narakeshu apitulyarta darshina means that the devotees, because they're always connected to the holy name and serving the holy name, no matter where they go, they are always connected to Goloka Vrindavan. Just like when we go out into the cities, towns, wherever we go, we're doing Harinam. We're not touched by the city. When we go to Palo Alto and Dar Harinam, we're not in Palo Alto. We're transported. It's a little launching pad. We're just going to Goloka, and everyone who comes by thought, oh, wait a minute, I thought we were in Palo Alto, and they look and they go, this is Goloka, this is not Palo Alto. We must have made a wrong turn and walked right into Goloka, because the holy name is non-different from Goloka Vrindavan, especially when it's chanted by those who are sincere about serving the holy name. So that's how the whole world can be transformed, through sound vibration. And that's how our lives are transformed, by sound vibration. It's amazing, too, that we come equipped. The sound that you make, by the sound you make yourself, you can transform your own consciousness. This is the power of mantra. You do the japa. And if you do it, then sincerely you do it, you can use your own vocal cord and your own tongue. And Prabhupada told a story of this man. He's walking along and he finds a gourd, and it's all dried up, but he picks it up, carries it along, he sits down under a tree, and he finds a string and a stick. And then he's sitting there with nothing to do, so he thinks, oh, I'll put the stick on the gourd. He secures it somehow, a little piece of wire he finds, and then he strings the string across the stick and ties it on the end, and then twing, 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 he makes a little sound. Give me a C sharp. Are you there, Avantika?
Yes.
Let's hear a C sharp.
Okay.
I got one down here if you don't have it. Let's see. There it is. So he hits sa, and he hears the sound of his own voice, sa, and then he starts singing, and he realizes, oh, my voice, I never noticed before, I can sing, it sounds very nice. And then this young boy walks by and hears him singing, watch and listen to play this instrument that he created, and it has a very attractive sound. So the boy's standing there listening under the tree, and when the man stopped singing, he said, the boy says, that was the most beautiful thing I ever heard. Could you please come to my house and sing for my family? So the man, with nothing to do, he brings his gourd and the stick and the string, and he goes to the house, and he sings for the family, and they're all enchanted. So they bring all the people from the village, and the next day they have a concert. And then the word goes out to all the other villages, and they all come. And then the news spreads to the cities. And then royalty is sending for him, saying, please, bring your gourd instrument and sing that beautiful song that you're singing. And just from the one song, from his own vocal cords, then his whole life is transformed. So those who find Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they hear that, yes, you can transform yourself. You have everything it takes. This body, it's just really an empty gourd. As we heard in the first verse that Lord Krishna gave to the sages at Kurukshetra, he said, Yasyasti Bhakti, that the whole body is just Yasyatma Buddhi Kunapetri Datuke. It's just a bag, an empty gourd, really. But you could take that, the vocal cords like the string, and then you can use your tongue and make the sound. And then when Krishna hears you singing that, then everything begins to transform in your life. And you can go anywhere in the world and simply make that sound. And Narada Muni, that's all he does. He has his veena, and he goes from one place to the next, and he makes the beautiful sound. So this is the simplicity of the Sankirtan movement that Prabhupada introduced. Just transform your life with your own vocal cords, your own tongue, and then teach other people to do it. Then do it in chorus, and then it will expand all over the world. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo. Anything else?
Hare Krishna Guru
Hare
Maharaj.
Krishna, Guru Maharaj.
Hare Krishna, yes.
Yes, Ashray Madhav. I have a question. So Guru
Okay, I
Maharaj,
hope I'm not keeping everybody up late, because I know that you're all on heavy, tight schedules, and I'm not sure what time you take rest. Okay, Ashraya Madhava Prabhu, I'm so happy to see you. Please tell me. Go ahead.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. So my question was, today's verse was related to the people who are not so conversant with the spiritual knowledge, mostly common folks. But somehow they hear from authorities, and then they start worshipping Supreme Personality of Godhead and cross the cycle of birth and death. Now, there my question was, is there a pattern by which common men recognize authorities, and is that dependent on time, place, and circumstance, different cultures, different nations, or it is very simple way? This is a very simple answer to that question. How do they recognize authorities?
I don't know how they recognize, but I know how we recognize. And I was thinking about this the other day, because I was sitting up in our dining room, and I have a view out into the backyard. It's a very beautiful view, actually. I like it very much. I could see into my neighbor's yard. They have a persimmon tree, and I was just watching in the wintertime all the persimmons come out. And I watched the birds and the squirrels come and pick through them to find out which one's ripe. They're very smart. They knew which ones are ripe. And I was thinking, how does a squirrel know? How does a crow know which one's ripe? And I think, same way I do. I just go over and try it. We actually have a competition with the squirrels to see who gets the ripe figs first, because they're really quick, and they'll jump in front of us and take the ripe one. They know which ones they are. So if an animal knows what's ripe, then we know. And it's the same thing with people too. When we go around and we're presenting Krishna consciousness through book distribution, giving classes, Harinam, you can just watch for yourself. And just as a squirrel knows what's a ripe persimmon, so similarly we know too by looking. You can just look and see and say, yeah, that person's ripe. And you can tell when somebody's open and innocent. And then you're supposed to pour in as much mercy as you possibly can. And it just it's a mystery of the universe, how souls all have a history, and we have no idea what it is. As Bhagavatam goes out of its way to present the fact that you could look at someone and say, oh, that looks like a demon externally, but actually then you test the heart, and the heart means it's sweet, and the person is actually open. And it could be rich, could be poor, it doesn't matter. The fact is, what is the state of the heart? So we have to test that. Gopal Champapu, you were going to say something, and then Srivatsa.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Yeah, I was just when I guess when your internet cut off for a second, when you hit the wrong button, I was thinking of the last verse of the Srinivasacharya with the Sakoswami Astakam, Hey Nanda, Hey Raje, Hey Raje Devi Ke Chalalite, Hey Nanda Sumnukutaha. We were all thinking, where did Guru Maharaj go? Where did Guru Maharaj go? It was you could felt it. It was very palpable among the devotees.
Well, you should have seen me. I was practically dead. I was all of a sudden like, who turned off the effulgence machine here? Yeah. And that's what happens too. When we leave Kartik and we go out of Vrindavan, it's always a sad time. Especially sad this time because, anyway. But when we think about being in Vrindavan and then you leave, after Kartik and you're driving out, and the further away you get from Vrindavan, and then you feel like the material energy is coming back in. You get to the Delhi airport. There's a few Radhes from the janitors, and if like, hey, Radhe, they see a devotee. But then more and more people, the further you go west, then it's no more Radhe. And the energy just falls dead. And then you feel it. Well, what am I doing here? Once in Mayapur, my godbrother Pragosh, we were in a darshan with Prabhupada, and he was always moving to the front of the line and trying to get a little extra. So, he stayed. He was the last one out. He was there with Prabhupada, and he asked Prabhupada a quick question. He said, so what's better, live in the Dham or go to the West? And Prabhupada said, the West is for preaching. The Dham is for chanting. And just simple answer he gave. Because if we come back to the West, if we're aligned for teaching the holy name to other people, then they will stay aligned with the Dham. We'll feel it. Not only that, we get qualification. By that tapasya, you have to do tapasya to be able to appreciate the Dham. As if you do your heavy tapasya like you're all doing, you're holding up jobs, you're holding up family, and then you're moving to the top of the world in book distribution. And all that stuff together, it is a marathon you're on. And then when you go to the Dham, you'll feel it. Because Krishna going, I know what you've been doing. You've given your whole life to this. Showing up, going to school, homework to high as your ceiling, but you still show up for every kirtan, every class. Krishna knows that you're doing these austerities. Prabhupada used to tell us things like that. He said once in a lecture, he said, so Krishna sees, oh, you're chanting 16 rounds every day for me? Prabhupada said, Krishna sees, oh, you're following 4 regulative principles every day for me? End of life? Back home, back to Godhead, Prabhupada said. So wherever we are, if we give ourselves to the process and do that tapasya, we'll feel connected with the Dham. Or we'll feel separation from it, and that's even the best. I was going to say, I'm really missing Prema-Niketana Prabhu. He passed away a couple of months ago during the pandemic, and it really, really affected me. He was such a simple soul. He was an executive for Pan Am. He took to Krishna consciousness later in his life, and he was so attached to Vrindavan. He lived in Delhi, but he'd drive in. He had his driver drive him back and forth a couple times a week. Every week at least he went. And I always drove with them, and it was part of being in Vrindavan, is meeting Prema-Niketana and driving back and forth, and it's really hard to take. And everyone that's connected to the Dham and everyone that's connected to our service and all the devotees, when we develop attachment, that's why I sang that song, Ajastra Smata Smata Re. That's the Vaishnava life, is you get attached to the Dham, you get attached to the devotees. And when you feel that this is my life and soul, like Bhaktivinoda was singing in that song, all these remembrances, Ajastra Smata Smata Re, always remember this, always remember this. This is the kind of way that we're walking in Cupertino, but we're in Vrindavan. We're remembering always. Srivatsa, were you going to say something?
No, Maharaj, I was just on
Okay.
Jamila. So.
All right.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Can I add something? Maharaj, I really loved today's the Radha Kund Parents' Day. This is the probably, I think, I when we attend the lecture, we don't know, it's always sweet. And it become like a super, super sweet. I just felt like, I was so lucky to be present when you were explaining that. I just thought to express that. Thank you.
Radha Kripa, we are always present. That's one of your assets. Always, always. Ajastra Smata Smata Re. Hare Krishna. Okay. Well, you all better get some rest. It's late in wee hours of the night practically now. And I know you all have homework and stuff to get ready for. Thank you very, very much. It's been a really wonderful experience, and to be here today, and looking forward to seeing you really soon. Please keep the transcendental vibration going, and be a kind friend to all living entities. Just remember, Jive Doi Krishna Nam Sarva Dharma Sar. Let's do something nice for as many people as possible. It always has an effect. If you don't see it now, it will in the future. And on this morning's call with India, we were with a lot of the Sankirtan leaders from around India, and Bhima Prabhu was remembering when he first got there, He got some bus together and went to Maharashtra. They got some Gitas and what's the language? Marathi, yeah. And so they're distributing thousands and thousands of Marathi Gitas, and he was thinking, what's the effect of this? I can't tell. He couldn't tell because it's just an ocean of people, and they're there for a year distributing. And then about 5 years later, Lokanath Maharaj, come. We got some programs going on, and it turned out there were thousands of people. The seeds that were planted there's so many people that came because they had gotten those Gitas and they had read them and they wanted to see the Hare Krishna movement up close. So every seed you plant, every Gita that goes out makes an effect. So we should do good for the world and try to inundate with Bhagavad-gitas, Srimad Bhagavatams, and every other kind of book. It's highly effective. Right? Sri Kumar Prabhu? Thank you, everybody, for all you're doing. Look forward to seeing you soon. Vanchakalpataruscha kripa sindhabevacha patitanam pavanibhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Can everyone please unmute and say Hare Krishna?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Hare.
Hari Hari Bol. Hari Hari Bol.
Hari 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 Bol.